Good morning, good morning. Welcome to another edition of Choppin' It Up with Ramel. No notes, straight from the throat. Well, the power rankings have come out in both leagues, the NFL and the NBA, so we'll talk about it. Let's start with the NFL. Quite frankly, I believe they got the top five right. No doubt in my mind. New England, Dallas, Oakland, uh, Seattle, and Atlanta. No arguments there. You're probably gonna see your Super Bowl teams come out of that five. I mean, it's anybody's chance at this point, but I do think that those top five teams are probably bound to go to the Super Bowl. I think it's going to be a dogfight between New England and Oakland to represent the AFC. Yes, I'm saying Oakland. I think they win that division. I don't think Denver has enough offense. And Kansas City, sometimes they can be helter-skelter, although they're playing good ball because they're 6-7. I believe Denver's 6 and Kansas City is 7. But I do like those two to fight it out to represent the AFC. And then in the NFC, Cowboys. I mean, unless Jerry Jones do the unthinkable and insert Romo come playoff time, I don't see anybody really stopping this Cowboy team. I think that they got a couple of tough games coming up, obviously with Pittsburgh and Baltimore. But I really think that Pittsburgh and Baltimore, you're going to see Cowboys be victorious. In fact, I got Baltimore losing tomorrow night to Cleveland, the winless Cleveland team. That's how helter-skelter I think they are. So I think Cowboys have a real good chance of getting there. And then with Seattle and Atlanta, I mean, those are viable choices. Don't get me wrong. It just seems like Atlanta always seems to come up short. And Seattle, that's the team to watch out. They have the experience. They know what it takes to get there. They've been there a couple of times. In fact, as I alluded to on yesterday's show about Russell Wilson's career, I mean, he's already been in the Super Bowl twice, winning one, losing one, on a controversial call by Pete Carroll, last play of the game. No doubt in my mind, that should have went to Marshawn Lynch, and they should be 2-0 in the Super Bowl. At least he should be 2-0 in the Super Bowl. But this is where it gets hairy because, yes, I do think Denver and Kansas City is a good choice for 6-7. But this is either a sign that the NFL is either weak or it's just a lot of parity because the round out 8, 9, and 10, you got Cincinnati Bengals number 8 at 3-4-1. You have Pittsburgh number 9 at 4-4, and then you have Minnesota at 5-3, number 10. And that's where it gets hairy for me because I'm looking at Cincinnati hasn't played well at all this year. I mean, many people had them as being a Super Bowl team. So for them to be 3-4-1 and 8, that says a lot to me. I mean, it's either the jar is half empty or half full, but that's telling me that there's a possibility that the NFL is just not that strong this year. And Pittsburgh, I mean, this team gets blown out one week, wins the next week, lose to a team you don't expect them to lose to. I mean, and then number 9. And then, okay, Minnesota. I don't know what's going on over there. They started out hot, looking like a runaway for Coach of the Year and possibly a early favorite to contend for the Super Bowl after a 5-0 start. But they've lost 3 in a row, 5-3. So they're constantly dropping. But they still round out the top 10. Little strange for me. I don't know how that bodes well with all of you guys. I'll take your questions, comments, and concerns. You know, you guys can text and inbox me. But it don't bode well with me. So, but we'll see what happens weeks coming. But I do like the top 5. I think they got it right. And I think it's going to be a tremendous fight to the Super Bowl because the top heavy teams in the NFL, or the top 7, I should say, are really good football teams. I don't see anybody beyond the top 7 and definitely beyond the top 10 sneaking in and making a difference. The only team that I'll give an outside chance that is not number 10 And that's the New York Giants. Because I've seen them do this before. In fact, in both of their years that Eli Manning has won the Super Bowl, it's like they go on this roll and they come out of anywhere, nowhere, and they march into the playoffs. The next thing you know, you look up, they're in the Super Bowl. I like to give Carolina, some love because they were 15-1, and it looks like they're beginning to turn things around with a 2-game winning streak. But at 3-5, they just got a long road. I don't count them out. They are definitely in playoff mode, but I just don't see them cracking it and say getting to an NFC championship. But if they do, what a remarkable story that would be. What a remarkable story that would be. So we got a game tomorrow night, Cleveland and Baltimore. I actually think on a short week, Cleveland gets their first win of the season. People think I'm crazy, but I do think they get their first win of the season. Moving over to the association, their rankings is out as well. And let's get right to it. No surprise, Cleveland is number one. And remind you, these rankings came out on Monday, so it doesn't include last night's games. But Cleveland is number one. Then you got the Clippers. Then you got followed by Golden State, San Antonio, and OKC. My only concern there is how does Golden State with a 4-2 record and gets blown out on day one against San Antonio, who has a 5-2 record, is ahead of San Antonio. That's just favoritism, if you ask me. Golden State is the darling of the league, can't do nothing wrong, but clearly San Antonio, in my estimation, should be ranked ahead of them. And then rounding out the top 10, you have Toronto, you have Charlotte, you have Utah, you have Portland, and you have Atlanta. At this point here, it's early in the season. I can live with that top 10. There's nothing wrong with that. But here's one interesting note, and I'm going to tell you something. I think it's rightfully deserved. And again, this doesn't include last night's games, but it was a significant jump by one team. That was the Los Angeles Lakers. They went from 27 to 15. They moved up 12 spots. Remember, they had some big wins. They're going into Monday this week. They were 4-3. I mean, let me tell you something. If Luke Walton is anywhere near 500 with this team, he's coach of the year. I don't care if he misses the playoffs, but if he is anywhere of 38 to 41 wins with this team, he's coach of the year. By far, in my opinion, he's coach of the year. I mean, I don't think anybody has the baby Lakers being in the top 15. Let's just say that at any point in the season. Even after game one win, they wouldn't be in the top 15. But if he continues the way he's running his team and instilling confidence and belief in this team and getting these guys to buy into what it is that he is selling or what he is asking or teaching, because he's reaching. He'll be coach of the year. If they win 38 to 41 games, I don't care. Cleveland has to go 74 wins. I'm going with Luke Walton as coach of the year. And speaking of coaches, I brought this up to some friends. I have a question. Is Steve Kerr really that great of a coach? I know I'm getting off basis here, but is he really that great of a coach? He inherited a team that was already ready-made. All right? He wins a championship. The next year, his league coach gets a job in New Orleans, Alvin Gentry. They fall short of a championship. All right? During that season that they fall short, he misses nearly half the season. Luke Walton has a very impressive start. I think he only lost 2, maybe 3 games in that stand, going like something like 35-3. Okay? He comes back, and his record is not as strong. There's more losses under Kerr than it is under Walton. Now, Walton is not there. And they've already have their second loss of the season where they didn't have their second loss of the season until probably after Christmas or the New Year, I should say, really. And here's the thing. And Walton beats them. And his team has Kevin Durant. So I'm not saying Kerr is not a good coach. I'm sure he's very knowledgeable. He played under some great coaches. But that's just something to think about. Something to think about. But while we stand in the association, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the win that Atlanta had in Cleveland last night. I mean, Cleveland's not going to win every game, so they have to lose. But I got to give credit to Atlanta. They went in there on the road. They had career performance by Schroeder. He had a career high of 28 points. Bazemore, he had it going. Someone who I think is fool's gold, but he had it going last night. Millsap is Millsap. What do you want to say? This is probably one of the better players you want to root for in the league because he didn't come out the gate as this strong player, but as he remained in the NBA, each year he just gets better and better and better. That now he's a recognized star in this league. Maybe not a superstar, but he's a recognizable star in this league. It's a shame you don't see his jerseys on the road, but a recognizable star and a good guy. But he gave his solid performance. I mean, those three was all 20 points or more. And then Dwight Howard. Guy had about 17, 18, 19 rebounds, altered quite a bit of shots. He may have had double figures and scoring. But the point is this. It's a good win on the road in Cleveland. Anytime any team can do that is a quality game. So kudos to Atlanta. And this is a team that I just didn't have in the playoffs because I had Chicago and the Knicks in their place as well as Miami. And speaking of the Knicks, they're ranked 27. I'm not going to argue about that or debate about that because they are where they are. That's the bottom line. But I will say this about the Knicks. I will talk a little bit about Phil Jackson. Phil, sit down. Sit down. As a GM, your job, or president of operation, your job is just buy the groceries. That's it. Once you buy the groceries, sit down. Sit down. If you want to cook the meal from the groceries that you buy, then be the head coach as well. Let the guy, Jeff Hornacek, do his job. I think your interference of wanting to shove the triangle into the team's throat, it's just a bit much. You're an intimidating figure. Some regard you as one of the best coaches, if not the best coach of all time. You're coming into practice, and to me, you're a distraction. Sit back and let the guy do his job. If not, do a Pat Riley move. Come down and coach. That's the bottom line. Come down and coach. But if not, sit back. Enough is enough. Listen, I agree with you on one thing and one thing only. The team needs a system. I agree with you that. Keep this in mind. Failing to plan is planning to fail. I get it. But the triangle is so outdated. That is not today's basketball. It's not. It is not. And not only that, if it contradicts what Jeff Hornacek wants to do, how healthy is it for the team? Let it go, Phil. Unless you want to come down and do a Pat Riley and coach the team. Plain and simple. Let it go. Speaking of the Knicks, they have a game tonight. They go into Brooklyn. They play Brooklyn. Brooklyn's coming off a win last night. So catching them on a back-to-back might be just what Knicks need. They got to have this win. I mean, if they're going to march towards a playoff or have a fairly decent season, it's teams like Brooklyn that they got to win. They cannot lose to a team that is not expected to make the playoff. They have to go on. To me, between Brooklyn and Philly, New York's got to be 7-1 or better as they play each team 4 times. They have to be 7-1 combined. So they need to go in there and into Brooklyn, treat it like it's a home game, take over the court, silence the fans there. There's one thing about the Brooklyn fans. They show up and they show out. They could be some of the loudest fans out there. You know, Brooklyn has always been known to be rah-rah and rowdy. So they show out. Don't get it twisted. They show out. So should be a good game all in all. Normally it is a very close game. And look for Jeremy Lin to want to, you know, show up his old team. So, but I'm gonna wrap it up right there. Again, Phil, sit down. The NFL rankings. I mean, the question is the NFL weak or is it just parity? And will some of these players in the NBA? We'll talk about that coming up with the stats. There's some crazy numbers out there. Can the NBA players keep that up? So until 24 hours from now, you guys have a good day. Chopping up with Ramel. Remember, no notes, straight from the throat. Peace and blessings.